While U.S. forces are racing to get as many people out of Afghanistan as possible, earlier this week, 2 U.S. congressmen insisted on getting in. Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton and his GOP colleague Peter Meyer made a surprise trip to Kabul on Tuesday, stunned some leaders in Washington, but also reportedly military leaders on the ground who've been focused on evacuation efforts. How did they justify the time and the attention? What did they learn when they were there that made it worthwhile? Congressman Seth Moulton, again a veteran, did multiple tours in Iraq, joins me now. Thank you for doing so.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here.
First, let's deal with the we, then we'll get to the me. In terms of what you saw on the ground, and in light of these attacks, what you believe the future holds, what's your assessment?
Well, Chris, let me just speak for a second at what these amazing Marines, sailors, soldiers, airmen were doing when they were killed. I was at Abbey Gate where the attack occurred, and they were given a truly Herculean task. It is the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen in my life. Over 4 tours in Iraq, I never saw anything like this. Marines out there sifting through this literal sea of humanity, trying to pluck out our allies who trusted us to get them out of this mess with their families, their wives, their husbands, their sons, their daughters that reminded me of my own. And it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't a gate with Marines on one side and Afghans on another because they couldn't find them that way. So the Marines had to go forward of our lines, out yards from the Taliban with their horsewhips to find our people and to give them a ticket to freedom. So they were putting themselves at tremendous risk and saving thousands of lives in the process. It was absolutely extraordinary, and I've seen a lot, Chris. I've been through a lot. I've never been more proud to be an American than I was that day at Abbey Gate, seeing what these Marines were doing for us, for our values, for upholding what America stands for these Afghans trying to get to freedom. So everybody needs to know that these Marines and sailors died as absolute heroes, and their legacy will be the thousands of Afghans, little girls and little boys, who are alive today because these U.S. Marines put their lives on the line for them.
What is the hardest thing for you emotionally in knowing that while these Marines were willing to do it, that they were put in that position despite the threat?
It's thinking that as a member of Congress, I didn't do enough, that we didn't fulfill our role to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. When I was on the ground in Iraq, I felt abandoned by our Congress because I saw countless decisions made by people in Washington who had no idea what it was like on the ground, had no idea what positions we were being put in as Marine infantrymen. No idea the sacrifices that we were being asked to make because I didn't know what was going on. And I vowed that I would not be a member of Congress who left our troops behind.
Do you think that we have to adjust now and that you can't have Marines out there in front of the lines so vulnerable to more suicide attacks? Because there's no reason to believe that the same agents of this kind of evil can't do more of this.
You know, one of the most amazing things about these Marines is they want to go out there again because they know how important this mission is, because they see in the eyes of these Afghans the lives that they are saving from certain death. So they want to keep doing it. But what we have to come to terms with as a country is that we're not going to get everybody out. With the timeline we have, we are not going to get everybody out. That's one of the most important things that I learned on the ground.
But why do we have a timeline?
Well, look, Chris, I'm not going to go into the history here. I think you've done a good job.
No, but I'm saying, why should we have one at all? Now that you've been there and the military leaders tell you the same thing there, that they're not going to be done by the 31st, why should the 31st be a real end date?
Well, that's exactly what I thought before I went over there. But what I heard from the commanders on the ground is that because even if we delayed till September 11th, which was the original agreement, we're not going to get everybody out in time. And so we have to have a productive relationship with the Taliban going forward. As bizarre as that sounds, we have to have a productive relationship with the Taliban going forward if we have any chance of getting the thousands that we leave behind when we do go out in the future. And the only way we can do that is if we abide by the agreement that's been negotiated at this point, which is to leave on August 31st. It's heartbreaking, but that's the position that we've been in, and that's the position that people in Washington have put our troops in.
So some of the people on the committee that you're on and Nancy Pelosi are miffed that you went over there, you didn't tell anybody. You say we weren't there to grandstand, nobody knew we were there until we left. The pushback is, yeah, but then the military on the ground had to protect you guys, and that was reckless of you. What do you make of the criticism that you shouldn't have been there?
Look, I mean, I don't care what people are saying in Washington. What I care about is saving lives. I care about doing my job by the Marines and soldiers and sailors and airmen out there on the ground, and by the Afghans that we're trying to save.
But did you learn anything by going there that you didn't know already?
Absolutely. I just went through how I learned where we have to go going forward. My opinion on the 31st was totally changed by my time there. I learned that all the work that my colleagues and I have been doing in Congress, where we think that we're helping these troops by sending names forward, even though we can't get answers, that's actually what's distracting them from the mission, because there's no system in place to handle these thousands upon thousands of requests from individuals all over America through congressional office to get Afghan friends that they know. And that had been my experience. You know, the last week, Chris, I stayed up all night one night just trying to get 4 small families out. And I was sending hundreds and hundreds of text messages between the Afghans and troops I happen to know on the ground, between their friends and advocates in America, just trying to get them to the right place, to hang on. I know your kids are practically dying of dehydration, but please stay a little bit longer, because someone really wants to come and help you. And at the end of the night, I'd gotten one out of the 4 families out. But when I saw a picture of them on the base, and I saw there's this heroic Afghan journalist, his wife, and two little girls, just about the same age as mine, I knew it was worth it. And if I could get on a plane to figure out how to save a few more families, then I'm sorry, Chris, I'm going to do that.